lawsuits in black and brown communities?
No, that bank is a mission-driven bank, totally dedicated to the idea of economic justice, environmental sustainability, and supporting businesses owned by black people, brown people, and women. And so we bought a business that involved making loans for people to buy used cars. And as part of that business, there was a collection process that we've gotten under control. Those, people were trying to sharpshoot those loans. But if you actually look at them, the average rate was very low. And we got some holdover loans that people wanted to sharpshoot us about. But actually, that specific program was doing its job of enabling people to get, fair loans in the used car business, which is our whole goal. We aren't getting anything out of that business other than mission. And so anything that goes on, all we're trying to do is help the community.
But to be clear, you're benefiting rhetorically on the stump from the fact that you helped run that bank. Do you owe anything to the people who were sued with those astronomical interest rates?
There aren't astronomical interest rates. That's not
27.9%? That was a lot. You said it was a lot.
That was an inherited loan that we bought the whole bank, and that was inherited. Take a look at the rates that we've been writing. They're way, way lower than anybody else. The economy isn't strong for the people of the United States. I call it the Mar-a-Lago economy. It's growing anemically, but actually the money's all going to rich people. There's low unemployment, but you can't live on the jobs that this economy produces. The stock market's up, but rich people own the stocks, and the stocks are up in large part because Mr. Trump gave the companies such a huge tax break. So actually, when you look at this economy, it's not working for the people of the United States. He blew up the deficit by cutting taxes for rich people and big corporations, and he said that after the election, he's going to solve that deficit problem by going after Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. That's immoral and wrong. This president is terrible economically for the people of the United States. He's incompetent. He lies about it all the time, and he keeps telling himself how great he is, but he's lying. No, I'm a straight up progressive. I believe what's happened is a group of radical right-wing extremists have set the agenda in this country for the last 40 years, and we need to get away from their theories that all turned out to be false. The idea that we don't need a government is false. The idea that unions are bad are false. The idea that when you lower tax rates on rich people, tax revenues go up, that's demonstrably false. The idea that when you give money to rich people, it trickles down. We've had 40 years to see that isn't true. The idea that, in fact, corporations are just, that's not true. That they're efficient at making money for themselves. There have been a series of Republican lies. We have to get back to the idea that America is prosperous and grows when the American people, when we support Americans, when we support them with education and healthcare, we insist on a living wage, and the money shared much more equitably. My proposals will create over 4.5 million good-paying union jobs a year. I'd cut taxes by 10% for everyone who makes less than $250,000. We'd have a completely different investment into the American people so that, in fact, we grow together instead of having this banana republic that they're running out of the Mar-a-Lago country.
Earlier today, the culinary union, they didn't endorse you or any other candidate, and they have 3 main issues: healthcare, livable wages, one job is enough, and immigration reform. Can you address each one of them?
Sure I can. I mean, in terms of healthcare, I believe that affordable healthcare is a right in the 21st century for every American. I believe the government has fallen down on its job to drive down those healthcare costs and has basically been purchased by drug companies, insurance companies, and private hospitals. The way I would do that is by working off the Affordable Care Act and putting in a public option. I would not take away from 160 million people their health care that they've got through their employers, and specifically not for union people like the culinary union who've negotiated for years for that health care program. I believe that it's unnecessary. We should leave choice. And I believe that I've called on Senator Sanders to explain how he's going to pay for scrapping the existing system and have a whole new Medicare for All program that I don't support. That's one. What were the other ones?
Immigration reform.
And a living wage. Okay, in terms of a living wage, let me say this. I know I've been working for a $15 wage for years. But if you actually look at the minimum wage in 1980, when Ronald Reagan was elected, and you inflation adjust it, so it's not up, it's just the same buying power just in 2020 dollars, it's $11, not $7.25, which is the national minimum wage. If you then include the productivity gains that American workers have achieved over the last 40 years and split them up in the traditional proportion between employers and working people, the minimum wage would be $22. I think that's a measure of the difference between a living wage and what we have today, which is a corpocracy where the corporations write the rules for everybody else. In terms of immigration, I believe Mr. Trump's immigration plan is basically racism by another name. He's not opposed to immigration, he's opposed to immigration by non-white people. And I would be, push back on that from the very first day. I would reform ICE, I would run it completely differently. I would try and reinstitute DACA and DAPA and TPS. I'm for comprehensive immigration reform, meaning give the 12 million people who've been here an average of 15 years legal status and a path to citizenship. I believe we have to get back to the idea that having people come here seeking asylum is their international legal right and our responsibility to adjudicate it. And I believe that we have to start behaving compassionately and decently and with the values again. So, since when did America, Mr. Trump's argument is, we're too full. That's not true. For hundreds of years, people have come here fleeing persecution and violence and for a better life for their families. And that's been a great source of strength for this country. And it continues to be. And we have to talk about it that way instead of allowing racism to control our immigration policy and let him set the framework that this is in fact his racist attempt to keep America white.
Thank you guys.